too on the freaking ball, eh?
Yeah, I know. Little details here and there.
Good
I
sweater.
got 3. Yeah, thank you. I don't know what to say about that.
We don't actually plan it.
No, we don't plan it. I was actually wearing something else, and then it was a little cold up here, so
It is cold.
Put
It'd be
on,
nice if they kept the heat
same
on.
shirt that you have on.
Yeah.
So listen, man, Eric, we're ready to go here today. I had a good story that's going to coincide with today's talk. I don't need my glasses yet. I always do that, right? I forget.
It's tough.
Yes, it is. So I'm fired up about today's talk, by the way.
I could tell when we were talking
Yeah.
about it earlier.
Yeah, I just
Feeling it.
I'm excited. So anyways, yesterday morning we were after our workout, I was talking to Dalton, or no, it was during our workout, and he's always good for a story, right?
Oh yeah.
And he's so good at bringing back childhood because it runs really deep for him, like it's he makes everything feel like a child. He brings you back to your childhood memories. So yesterday we were talking about, I'm just going to look at my notes here real quick. Yeah, it's a funny, cute little story. That's what I wrote in my notes.
Funny, both funny and cute.
Yeah, and really serious and nostalgic and all those things. So Dalton was talking about shooting pucks when he was a kid. And he's told this story a million times. Like, this is how I know the address of his street, because he always keeps mentioning back on 417 Murray Street in Kingsville. That's where he grew up. His dad's actually pretty handy, so he built him. He had a net when he was a little kid in the driveway. Shot pucks near like every little kid, right? Shot pucks near the driveway until he started getting a better shot. So his dad built him a net with a big tarp with some netting around it with wood around it, so he wouldn't be breaking other things than the neighbors. So he moved that into the backyard, and so every day he tells a story. He'd hurry up from school, grab his stick. As a little kid, his grandma would make him cheesecake or something like that, and he just put the spoon in the cheesecake, start eating, and go out and run out and shoot a whole bunch of pucks, and then come back in. Fork would still be there, just like a little kid. He goes, "Andy, I didn't know anything about anything. I didn't know how to eat. My grandmother would make me a big thing of cheesecake. I'd eat my cheesecake, and I'd go out and shoot pucks and rollerblade around just like a little kid." And we all have those stories.
Oh yeah.
Mine was, I told him, I said, it was so funny because I remember when the year before I got drafted, just loved hockey, and up north in Sudbury, Ontario, hot summer day. We didn't have rollerblades back then. We had roller skates, and I would get my roller skates on, but I'd get all my equipment on. I'd take the face mask off of my
the roller skates are the 4 wheels.
4 wheels.
The
Yeah,
four-
like there used to be roller skating called, I remember the one star was Skinny Minnie Miller.
Yeah.
They used to hammer each other and stuff. So anyways, I had roller skates, and then all my equipment. I'd stick all around the neighborhood, and people must have thought I was crazy.
Oh yeah.
Because most people are living normal lives, and having a dream of being a hockey player, like on a normal street. It's like some kids play hockey, but to have someone actually really serious, they just think you're crazy. You're an outlier, right?
Well, I got a story like that too. That's funny. So I was when I was a kid, I used to shoot in the drive. Well, first I would shoot in the basement, and then we finished the basement, so that wasn't allowed anymore. So I moved out to the garage, and I would shoot into the street. So I'd put the net at the end of my driveway, and I would shoot into the street. Well, as I got older, if I missed the net, I've said this before, but we lived on a dead end.
Yeah.
And if I missed the net, cars parked on the road, I could easily hit one of those.
Oh yeah.
So I started to be like, not the best idea. So I started to put the net against the house.
Oh yeah, that's smart.
So I would close the garage doors, and I would just pelt the garage door if I missed, just ding 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 everywhere. So in my neighborhood, I was known as the garage door house because there were so many puck marks from missing the net. Yeah. As I got older than that, my dad had an idea. He's like, "Look, man, you're gonna break our house." So we bought a couple sheets of finished plywood from Home Depot. Yeah. And I had this old green van. It's a Dodge Caravan, I think.
Yeah, I remember it.
Oh yeah, it was my favorite car ever. Yeah. No tinted windows. It sucked. It was crap. It was awesome. Yeah. And I would wrap socks, like hockey socks, around the corners of the net. I had one of those big metal nets. Yeah. It wasn't super heavy, but I would wrap it around the corners, and then I would put it on the roof of the car, and I would wrap the socks around the corners so that it wouldn't dig into the windows or the paint of the car. Yeah. And I would put the plywood in the trunk. I would drive with the net. My dad did it with me for a summer, and then I did it the next 2 summers on my own. I would drive the car to the baseball diamond around the corner from my house.
It's amazing.
Take the plywoods out to pitcher's mound and put the net against the backstop and just bring a bucket
Just
of
to
pucks and
shoot
rip.
pucks.
I remember driving, like, picture this. So I'm driving. It was just around the corner, so it wasn't like a far drive or anything. But I'm driving from my house to the park in the neighborhood with one hand out the window holding the net, plywood out the back, and then I would mount the curb at the park to drive to the diamond to unload all my stuff, just to shoot a couple pucks, man.
It's great.
Oh yeah,
the
funny.
lengths that we go through.
Yeah,
I remember we had our basement, a really small basement, but we used to. My brother was a goalie, so when he wasn't around, I just ripped pucks. That when we moved, when I was, I don't know, I think I was just the year before I got drafted. The walls were black, all like the end wall and then the rebounding wall.
Oh yeah,
we spray painted targets onto the cement wall. It was the best, you know. Like, and I used to go to people's houses that have the finished rec rooms and stuff like that, and it was. I used to get a little bit jealous, but then at the same time, I'm going, they can't shoot pucks down here anytime they want. Like, it was different. So everyone's got a story, right? So Dalton was talking about, you know, so his dad built him this bigger tarp, so it's like basically you can't miss now, and he can collect the pucks. He'd fire the odd one in the field in the back and stuff. Mm-hmm. But the funny thing, he said when he first started, it was like the neighbors would kind of dismiss it, but he was out there all the time. And then it grew to the fact, like, as he was getting older, you know, 12, 13 years old, it's like, okay, you're being a pain in the ass because now the pucks are hitting the wood, and, you know, every couple of minutes you're clack. So, you know, neighbors would be, you know, even sometimes say something like, you're bothering us. But he said it came to the point where it became interesting to people because now he was like 16, 17, 19, doing the same thing in the summertime, coming home from his first season or two of pro and shooting pucks in the same spot. So you see this big gorilla of a man ripping pucks and making noise, and people, he said, you'd see people, you know, stop and watch for a few minutes, and there was piquing their interest, like, But the interesting part on that, you know, they poke their head out and say, I wonder what they're thinking. So my question was, I got to read this a bit. I wrote a couple of thoughts on that because that's the cute part of it. But the reality of it is, what was going through the head of people in the neighborhood? What is actually going through their head? They're going like, why is this guy shooting pucks? Or, wow, that guy shoots a lot of pucks. Like, does he, you know, I wonder what it was. Yeah. Because it's a very different thing to relate to, right? Yeah. I guess the equivalent in your family is seeing someone like your sister who's an artist and your dad's who's an artist just constantly singing or playing guitar, like they're obsessed with it. Oh, yeah. And people can't understand necessarily that practice piece, that how important that is, and the joy of it as well. And the other question I had was what was going through the neighbors' heads, but then if you look at it from the point of view of Dalton, what was going through his head? Was he, because I know when I used to shoot pucks, I used to take on a personality of a game I watched or my favorite player. And I would be playing Stanley Cups or getting overtime goals almost every shot, making corrections. But like when I'd go in just the dream world, I was that person, or I was Andy Paquette playing for the Montreal Canadiens or whatever. And it was like so real and so vivid. And that's what it was. So I can imagine what the parents, some of those people say now. Oh, yeah. Do you remember that kid on 417 Murray Street? Yeah. Do you remember that kid that used to shoot all the pucks all the time? Yep. Yeah. Well, guess what? You know what I heard? I heard he plays for the Columbus Blue Jackets. You know, I saw him on TV. Yeah, he plays in the NHL. Did you know that kid? Like, yeah. Imagine, and a lot of people be like, imagine, that kid that shot all those pucks. Well, yeah. That kid that shot all those pucks. Well, you know, and that kid, sorry to interrupt you, no. And it's like the other things I was thinking, hey, Martha, you know that kid that used to shoot all the pucks? He just bought his dad a Harley Davidson. You know that kid that shot all the pucks in the backyard that drove us nuts and the neighbors nuts and broke windows? He built a new kitchen for his mom. That kid that's 30 years old, he's a millionaire. He retired. He's 30 years old. Huh. Imagine if that paid off. Yeah. Lucky. The contrast in those two perspectives is actually so interesting to think about because, I mean, for me, I remember when you're out there just shooting pucks, practicing, whatever, you end up, like you said, you have that obsession and you end up kind of buckling into your own little world, right? So you're not thinking for 1 second about what anyone around you, what the neighbors think. Like when I'm driving my car with the net on top to the park, it never crossed my mind. Well, maybe it did, but
that what man these neighbors must think.
No,
Like
it didn't to me either.
Like never.
No.
It was always just like, okay, I actually have to do this because I'll break everything in my neighborhood if I don't do this, and I need to shoot pucks because I need to get better. Yeah. So that obsessive nature is super. That's what it is necessary. Like you need to have that. And I remember the one time I was at the park shooting, and you're talking about people kind of get interested. And I remember this guy came out. He lived at one of the houses around the park, and he came out with his camera, and he worked for like the LaSalle newspaper or something like that. And he came out and he just asked like, hey, like, what are you doing? I've seen you out here a bunch of times. Like, and I was like, hey, I'm just like shooting pucks. Like if I stay at my house, I'll break stuff. Yeah. He's like, oh, cool. Like, do you mind if I like snap a couple pictures? Maybe like, I don't know, maybe I'll make an article about it or something. I don't know.
Come on.
Whatever. Yeah. And so he actually sat there and he took some pictures of me shooting pucks. I remember my dad was there too, because my dad would come sometimes when I was like, I think when I was like 15 or 16, and he would pass.
Oh,
so he would take.
So now you can show off to your dad, which is awesome.
Yeah. So he would take, we had a sheet of plywood off to the side, and then the 2 sheets where I was standing on, and he would like throw sauce or try to throw sauce or passes to me. And a lot of times it was just a shitty explosion pass, and I would have to like trap it and catch it and then get the shot off and whatever, and we do different drills. And it's that obsessive nature. That's what you need. You end up kind of retreating into your own little zone, your own little world, and you don't think about other things.
Yeah,
you know?
and I think it's as much as it's obsessive, it's also passion. So just before we went up here, I just touched base with my family, said, hey, how you guys doing today? Blah, blah, blah. And so Charlie, because we haven't had not to be negative, but we've had a challenging winter with COVID, and skated a lot and like a little bit in the summer, fall, and then it goes canceled and all that stuff again. So he's been itching to get on the ice. So the weather hasn't been cooperating at all. Been wearing flip-flops and shorts up until yesterday. Not that I wouldn't do that anyways.
Right, yeah, seriously.
But so he was on the weekend. He was hoping to get on the ice, and it was like, Charlie, you can't. You're gonna drown. Like. You just can't. So yesterday he was able to, and I got off early, you knew that, and I watched him with his a few buddies skate for about 4 or 5 hours. I just texted him because he's like, Dad, as soon as I'm done school, I'm going back today. I said, yeah, for sure. So my other son has 100 acres of property with a big, huge pond. It's bigger than the ice at the arena, and it's just perfect. So they shoveled it. And the lengths that you'll go to for him to skate, for kids to skate, and I remember this. So anyways, he loved it, and it was just that smile on his face, the pure joy of getting to play hockey. So he texted me to say, I'm going to go to the pond after, and I said, Charlie, it was so beautiful to watch you skating. Now, I wasn't watching, like, observing, and in fact, you sent me a text, you said, you're doing some skills? I know you're joking.
Yeah.
I said, no.
Through the jab.
Yeah, but this is, yeah, crazy dad.
Crazy dad.
But it was so nice to just see him have fun playing the game that he loves. And I texted him today. I said, it was so beautiful to watch that yesterday. You with a big smile with your buddies just playing hockey. And I said, when things get tough, because they will, always remember that joy of why you play and how you love to be on the ice and skating and handle the puck. And if you can always keep that close to your heart, and like Dalton does, you can always remember the hard work, but the passion that he had, and it was never a chore. It was like, that's what you love to do. And if you can always remember that, it makes the tough times a heck of a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, and I know this is a little off topic, but just as the parent, what you're doing, like you're watching him, and you're just enjoying watching him. And you know, it's funny because you say this all the time, and I know like we've talked about parents and stuff before, but whenever Charlie has a game or whatever, all you ever say about it is, I just want to watch my kid play.
That's it. I love watching.
I just want, and it's not, I want to watch to make sure he plays well to go to the NHL. No. It's not. It's like you just like watching, like that, like you said, that innocent, pure joy. He just loves playing. Like he just loves to play. And as his dad, that must be a awesome thing to be able to just watch, because he is doing that same thing. He's starting to get older, and he's starting to get into his own little world about it. And he's, like I said, all those other things are starting to not matter so much. He's starting to dial in on this thing, and it's a cool thing to see. Yeah,
and it's just like, honestly, my wife and I always say, look at the smile when he's playing in a game. It could be 1-1, overtime, major serious stuff, and comes on the ice. You know, he's got his nuances. Yeah. You know, every time he comes on, it's elbow pad. That's what I used to do. Elbow pad, like on face-offs, and then he pulls the jersey out of the back of his. Back of his pants. Yeah. Then he gets down into, taking the face off like as a winger with a big smile. Yeah. And that smile, that's what hockey does to you. It's so beautiful. Like, and I don't know if anybody could actually understand what I'm talking about, unless not anybody, but when you love this game, which it's so awesome, when you actually are in love with it as a youngster, God, there's nothing better.
Yeah, well, but it's like anything too. It's not just hockey. It's if you're, and most people, like we talked about this in one of our other podcasts. Like, I think that most people don't have that. You know, they don't have the one thing that they get really just lost in, that they truly love doing. Yeah. And if you have never had that, which I think the majority of people don't ever get that, I think that it's hard. You can't understand. You don't understand, because it's people talk about, like, it's almost a little bit like the fitness thing, right? Like, people are like, why do you do that? Like, why do you keep doing that? Like, what? It's like, you don't have to keep doing that. You're right. Like, I don't have to do that. I don't have to come in every day and work like that and do these things and that everyone else thinks is hard and all of that. But I just do it because I like it. I just like it. Yeah. Like, I just like doing it. I love doing it. That's what I like to do. Yeah. And it's not that obsessive nature. It's just what the kids want to do, that actually get lost in that thing. And it's like any other thing that you're really interested in doing, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. So I want to start talking about what we're going to start talking about. Yeah. That was a double sentence.
Yeah, nice.
So today, I want to talk to you. Like, I've referred this book to a million people. Not a million, but a lot of people.
Yeah, you have.
I love this book, and every time I read it, like, it's highlighted, like, just these pages, they're highlighted and notes all over the place, because there's so much in this. Now, every person that I've recommended this book to, not every person, but many people that recommended this book to said, really, that one? That's a good book? Because it's from a fighter, Georges St-Pierre. So I'm going to show the title of the book. It's Georges St-Pierre, The Way of the Fight. Now, anybody that's, you spend, how much was it? I think 20 some bucks. $14. You can get it. You can get not the hard copy, the hard copy, and you can get it cheaper. It's worth its weight in gold times 10. Every time I read it, like I said, I get more and more out of it. So as we were thinking, Dalton talked about that yesterday. I was thinking about what we wanted to talk about in our podcast this week, and I just thought the way of the fight is so applicable to not just the hockey player, but the parent, but everything that you do in life, because life is literally a fight. And if you don't actually understand that, I don't know, it's a different world than I live in, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So the way of the fight. So, and by the way, just so everybody knows, that's my body on it. They put his head. So that was last week. They changed the cover. So that's me. Not bad.
Not bad.
Not bad.
Not bad.
No, this guy is incredible. Wow. So here's the story. So what I'm gonna be doing here today is I'm gonna just give you an introduction on who Georges St-Pierre is, and talk about how he became what he became and the team that's around him, and then how it's applicable to hockey. And I hope you find this very interesting. And I could go on probably all day about different things, but I've only chosen to talk about basically his beginnings and as becoming a champion through his coaches and stuff like that. And I think everybody will find this very interesting. And then, of course, let's apply this to hockey. So, real Coles Note version here, and I'm going to read a little bit of the stuff today. I'll try to read like a professional. Okay. So, the bottom line is GSP was born in Montreal. French-Canadian kid, didn't speak a lick of English. He was a lick-lipper. So, he used to walk around like this, licking his lips all the time, and he had red lips from licking his lips. So that's a bad balance right there.
Yeah.
He walked on his tippy toes all the time, so he was like a different kid, and he was bullied like nonstop, to the point where he figured he had to fight back, and one of the big bullies. He was waiting for the big bullies one day. He said, enough is enough. I'm going to crack him one. So, because he used to get beat up pretty bad. So after school, he was waiting for him, and he cracked the one, and he got in a fight with 3 guys, and then he got beat up even again. But the point was that there was that fighter in him. So anyways, and his dad took martial arts. I think he was maybe a black belt. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. And then George became a martial artist when he was a kid. So he took whatever type of karate it was, and he enjoyed it and became a black belt. So that's that story. Okay, so he took that, and so if you don't actually know who Georges St-Pierre is, he went on to become the UFC welterweight champion of the world, and considered by many, many, many people as the greatest MMA fighter of all time. Now, arguably, now you have Khabib Nurmagomedov,
nice,
and you have John Jones is up there because time, but they still consider George to be
he's
the
up
most
in there.
fluent, the best fighter. And interesting, like just before I go into the real story, when he lost one of his fights in MMA, that was he said it was because he was arrogant, because he took a shot by Matt Serra. He came back from an injury. No, maybe got injured there. I forget the timeline. He took a couple shots and he got dazed, and he knew that he had to regroup properly, but his pride got in the way, and he just, because he was the champion, came out swinging, and he didn't take enough time to reset,
compose himself,
and he got KO'd, and it was like a real humbling thing. So he talks about humility, he talks about fear, he talks about all these things that everybody is going to go through, whether it's hockey, whether it's fighting, whether it's anything. So that was interesting in and of itself. And of course, the fight could be whether you're trying to be a hockey player, trying to make a team, trying to confront a coach, trying to talk to your parents dealing with something with your kids, building a business, having a good marriage, dealing with confrontation, public speaking. It doesn't matter if there's a fight out there that everybody is going to have at some point, or daily. And for us, every day we do a fight in our gym. We fight. Yep. We fight our bodies. We push our bodies.
If you don't go look for it, it's going to come find you.
Yeah.
So you're going to get it one way or the other.
Yeah. So it's just it's pretty neat. So my question or my comment to that is, like, just put yourself in the mindset of someone, because hockey, fighting, same thing. He decided, he chose that he said, I'm going to be the champion of the world when he started getting into martial arts, the champion of the world. So what that means, if you listen to the words and say champion of the world, yeah, okay, that's pretty cool. But if you actually dial in on what that actually means, that means that your weight class in your sport, in a fight, that anybody in the world could step up into that ring, where you walk into an octagon basically naked with 60, 70, 80,000 people screaming and yelling, getting entertained, and you're going to win. That's something.
Yeah.
Because I had the arrogance of a few years ago. We talked about this the other day. I had the arrogance of thinking that maybe I would give it a shot, like to learn how to do some stuff. And then that lasted for about 2 days. I said, come on, man. And then we were talking the other day about being Navy SEALs, me, you, and Dalton, because I got heavily into studying the tendencies and became friend with the equivalent of one in Canada. And you said it. You goes, I would never have the arrogance to say that I could do that, because it's so hard.
Well, I think
the humility is the piece that'll get you.
Oh,
through.
yeah, and the thing is like when you're a kid, the thing with GSP, because I read that book too a bunch of years ago now, actually, and wow, what a book, first of all. But when he was a kid, it's interesting to see the timeline of him developing the mindset, right?
Wow. And
that's what's really fascinating, because he goes like step by step through what his thought process was in these situations from being an insecure little kid. Yeah. And that's something that everyone can relate to. Like, I remember being in grade school. I remember going into the first couple of years of high school. I remember what that was like and what you're feeling as a young teenager.
Yeah.
Trying to grow up and trying to fit in, like we talked about a few times before. And all of that stuff, it's like it's can be really overwhelming. So it's such a good message to see that development that he had coming up through to end up becoming what he's becoming. And you're talking about him being the champion of the world and all of that, and it takes a certain mindset and a certain obsession and a certain level of commitment to what your goal is, to do all of those things that are the right.
Did you say it takes a certain level?
Yeah, it takes certain is an understatement, obviously, but it's like that's something that it's uncommon. It's an uncommon thing, right? And that's something that is really, really comes through when you're reading that, for sure. Yeah,
well, like if you just say I'm going to be as a kid, say I'm going to win the MVP in the National Hockey League, everyone is going to laugh. And when people say that, that's why we said this on podcasts before. People laugh at dreams because they just don't understand. And for the most part, it's laughable. I'm going to play in the NHL. Charlie's teachers kind of just, okay, what are you going to do though? I'm going to play in the NHL. And that mind says, I want to play in the NHL. I'm going to do everything I can. And they say, well, that's not going to happen because no one makes the NHL from Essex, Ontario, except for one guy, two guys, right? So
ever.
So we talk about this. So I'm just going to read a couple things, and I'll give you that, like, I'll point at you when I want you to interject, or if you have something really valuable, let me know.
Yep,
So this is all going to be George speaking, and in this chapter of the book, he talks about I'll just do this real quick. He breaks the book up into 5 different things, which I think is very, very important. That's going to relate to the hockey life, or anything, but hockey's what we do. So that's what I mean, for God's sakes. So the first chapter is about mother. So it's not really about his mother, but it's about his childhood and the roots that he had, and the beatings that he took, and how he developed to be what he is. The second part is called mentor. So it's his mentor, Christophe Madou. He seeked him out, and he was part of his team forever. So it's about, and it's important to have a mentor. It's not critical, but it's something that most people should have. The next one is the third part of the book is called Master. Is this John Danaher? That's where we're going to spend time today. BJJ Master, and he's like a really deep knowledge and really intelligent guy. The next one is Maven, which is a knowledge guy. That's Firas Zahibi, who is his head coach and another real deep thinker. And the last one is what he calls his consciences. That's his old friend, who is his manager, his friend, and the guy that under every circumstance has his best interests in mind. So that's the thing. So we're going to spend the most of this talk on his his master, John Danaher. So anyways, here's a couple excerpts, and I'm just going to talk with him. They're going to talk about Danaher's comments. So this is one I highlighted just to get her going. So early in this book, it just says, fear. Once you get used to it, it can be mastered. You can tame fear, and I knew that. It can take some time, and you can go through some pretty bad moments, but at some point, fear is going to get tired or overconfident, and you can just take it down. Ooh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty sick. So I was 17. This is George again. I was 17 years old, and I had arrived in New York City. I didn't have any money. So this is from Montreal to New York City. I didn't have any money, and I was intimidated, 17 years old. The story gets better, by the way. I was going into a crack neighborhood before the cleaner years. It wasn't a full-on ghetto, but I'd never seen that kind of place in my life. But I walked in there into the Gracie gym seeking knowledge, and they let me in. I couldn't speak a lick of English, and every fighter in the place wanted to go at me because I'm the new guy. That's the way it is in a gym, a real fighting gym. A new guy walks in, and everybody wants a shot at him. I got my ass kicked many times. The kind of practice we participate in is called randori. Essentially, it means freestyle practice of one-on-one sparring. The goal is to resist and counter the opponent's techniques. The Japanese translation would be chaos taking or grasping freedom. Well, they almost fought over me to get at them. I suffered my share of whoopings. I ate a lot of randori, let's say. I was really discouraged at first, but I went there to learn Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, to learn the art of fighting on the ground from experts. Those guys really are the best in the world. Do you have anything right now?
Yeah, so okay. Two things. So I want to touch on the first part. You're talking about fear. Mm-hmm. And I want to set the stage for this, like for the young guys to come in, right? Because when you're coming up through AAA hockey, let's say, yep, and you're about to make that jump to the next level, whatever, that's something that is going to hit you. You're going to have that. Everyone knows what that's like. You go to, a big tournament, whatever, or you go to, you're playing against the best players. There's an all-star game or something like that, and you're in the dressing room, and you have that feeling, that gut feeling, right? Yeah. Where you're scared. Now, what's important to understand about fear is that the reason we have fear is because when we were apes a long time ago, we didn't want to die, right? So we would get these feelings to turn on fight or flight to let us run away, whatever, okay? Yeah. Most people don't have that now. We don't have that kind of threat in our life, but we still have the mechanism for that. So the way that GSP is talking about it, they're saying like it's something that you can wait fear out, basically, right? You can wait it out and you'll be able to take it down. It'll get tired, it'll go away, right? And with most things that, especially for kids, because it's such a weird time when you're a teenager, you're going from a little boy turning into a young man, turning into an adult. That's something that, just like you said, you can wait it out. So when you're going into those situations and you have that fear, so think about him, walking into that gym for the first time as a boy, 17 years old, right? He's just a kid walking into that gym, how terrifying that is. Yeah. And he, just like you said, you wait it out.
Yeah.
You keep it going, and you know that fear is going to be there, but you just do it anyways, right? Because then that's how you overcome it, right?
Yes.
You let it paralyze you, and you let it back you off, and then you're not going to ever do the thing that you wanted to do.
Yes.
You know? And so that's an important thing to understand is, like, you can feel the emotion, you can feel it there, but know that that's something that you can take down over time, right?
Yeah, that's awesome, Eric. That's why we're a team. Because I'm the good looks and you're the brains.
Yeah.
But the other side of fear, success. It's just, that's what it is. And it doesn't mean that you're going to win everything, but you've made improvements in your life. You realize that. And there's a stat. I don't know if it's an accurate stat, but I would say this is pretty safe to say. 90% of the things that you worry about or scared of or fearful of never come true. And when they do, they're not even close to as bad as what you thought they were going to be.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Actually, I got a touch on that before you go on.
Yeah.
I remember it was a Sam Harris thing. I don't know if anyone knows who Sam Harris is, but he's just this kind of philosophical thinker type guy.
Yep.
And he's big into mindfulness. And he talks about, he has an app, actually. It's called the Waking Up app. It teaches like meditation and stuff. It's very interesting. But he talks about, and we've talked about this a lot, like being in the moment and what that means. And one of the examples he uses is pain or fear or whatever. And a lot of times what happens is you are anticipating the next moment of fear or the next moment of pain. And that thought, to your point, like you just said, is actually worse than what's happening in the moment, because a lot of people, they'll quit because like, oh, I can't take any more of this. I can't take any more of the fear. I can't take any more of the anxiety. I can't take any more of the pain. But in that moment, it's like you are taking it. Like you are handling it. You're handling the pain. You're handling the fear. You're doing it. You're not dead. You're still going forward. Yeah. And it's that thinking ahead where you can start to overwhelm yourself, and that's what will make you quit, because you're anticipating feeling more pain, or more fear, even though you're handling it in the moment. You know what I mean? So that's just an interesting thing. That stat that rings true for me. Definitely, I definitely see.
Oh, there's so many. Fear disguises itself in so many different ways. Fear, you make an excuse. You make an excuse, right? Think about when the first time you had to ask out a girl. The fear of her saying no, or telling her friends, or laughing at you, or saying yes. Now what? Yeah. Right? Because that's another thing.
Yeah, seriously. Now what?
But you'll disguise fear like, if you're afraid to go into a gym, or you're embarrassed by your workout or something, and you don't want to go back because you're fear of what other people are going to think. There's fear disguise itself in different ways. Just name different things. And it's weird. Like, so Andre Agassi, the famous tennis player, married Brooke Shields. Then he got divorced from her and married Steffi Graf, who was another tennis champion. But anyways, he went through, I'm going to use him in a podcast one day. He went through his tennis career. So his dad was like really hard on him, wanted him to be a tennis player and practice. So it wasn't necessarily, he liked tennis, but he wasn't self-driven. It wasn't an intrinsic motivation. And his hair started falling out early in his teenage years, and started to go bald like really early. So he actually was so self-conscious of that he went and got hair implants. So when he was playing tennis as a pro, he had this long hair. He rubbed me the wrong way. Like, he came like arrogant a little bit and like a baby and all that kind of stuff. But when he was playing, he writes in his book that he every minute of the tennis match, he'd be worried about his hair falling off or being revealed that he has fake hair. So that was like just a major insecurity, which is a fear, right? Mm. Fear of how people, like fear of being accepted, fear of what I look like, and it's only your fear, and no one else's. So he went and did that. So then, anyways, at the end of it bothered him, like anxiety over this, and then he got divorced from Brooke Shields, who was an actress, and married his Steffi Graf, and she said, just shave your head. And she just kind of said, no, I like you for who you are, and it'll look good and whatever. He played his best tennis after that. And but fear comes out in a lot of different ways. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So so the next thing is, I'm still with Georges St-Pierre here. 17 years old in this gym. Think about that, 17 years old. Now, how many kids are going to move away or do little things at 17 years old to put themselves in that situation? Well,
before you go there, 17 years old, like this is why it's so applicable to these young guys, right? Because 17 years old, like you're not going into the ring to get beat up, but you're maybe moving away. You're maybe taking a transition in your life to do something new, right?
So you're making a big move to make yourself better, to recognize it at 17.
So it's definitely a parallel.
But it gets better.
Yeah.
So in that first day in that gym in New York from Montreal, I found a lot of things about myself that first day. Mostly that I could get my ass kicked really good. And I've had my butt handed me many times in that place. I'm definitely not the king of that gym, but that's why it's good. If anything, I don't ever want to start by being the king. It doesn't work that way. A person can't be good from the beginning. You have to go through the stages of learning, the tests, and learn from them. You need to grow. These guys had been doing this for a long time, which we compare ourselves to people all the time, right? And the day that I got there, I didn't want to beat them. I wanted to work hard and learn from them so that I could improve. That's all I want to say about that. Oh, maybe one more thing. I'm going to just throw one more thing in here. Yeah. This is important. But I went to New York for a reason. Throughout my life, I've tried to continue on my knowledge path. I was lucky to understand early on that there were always more coaches in the world that I could learn from. Training with John Danaher and the Gracie family was of paramount importance. Renzo Gracie is a legend in our sport. The family's legacy is without equal. In those days, this is awesome. In those days, every dollar I made went to my training. I knew it would pay off. I just felt it. My expenses were gas, hotels, food, and classes. I think it was $20 a day. Nothing really, when you think of it. When you think of what Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gave me in return, nothing. Even though in those days I calculated my life in $5 increments. Got anything from that?
Man, so give me a little what was the first part of that you read? Before you added that second part there.
When he went to New York, is that the part?
So talking about not starting off as the best.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
so
the other page.
Right. So the thing that was sticking out to me on that is obviously that second part you added, doing whatever it takes and all of that. We know that. But it's interesting that this guy's the best. This guy is the best at his craft, right? And he is saying you got to go through the shit.
Yep.
Right? You got to, and when I think about this with hockey, some guys can get away with it for a while. Some guys are just that good, and they'll break through and they'll play, they'll get the minutes, and they'll do all this stuff that maybe you don't get to do at the beginning, right? But over time, those are the guys that they disappear. They dissolve, they get lost in the shuffle, because by the time you get to professional level or high level, there's too many good players and you can't get by on just being good now, right? And that's a huge lesson to take. That's coming from the best guy. He didn't come out on top. He didn't come out winning every fight. He came to the sport getting his ass kicked, right? Yeah. And learning the lessons that he needed to learn to get to the top. And anyone who has any length of a career will tell you the same thing, right? And that's what they have done to stay where they're at for any period of time. And any top player that's been, however many time All-Star, Hall of Famer, whatever, these are guys that have gone through that and they've done that to be the best guy, right? Yeah. They've learned the lessons that they need to learn. They've taken the beatings that they needed to take, because then that's the only way. That's the only way through. Yeah. So we've just talked about one discipline that he did this with. Yeah. Because I could go through this whole book and keep going, but that was, so I want to keep this applicable to a hockey player. So he recognized early in his career that he knew how to do karate. He knew how to do some the bare bones of MMA, but he recognized that his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is your ground game, was lacking, or zero experience. He had a blue belt, which is actually on the street, that would be pretty good, but then the ring, no. So he recognized, okay, I got to do something. If I want to be the champion, I can't get by with a blue belt. And maybe the blue belt here in Montreal, or the black belt in Montreal, is not the same as going to the best gym in the world. So I'm gonna take it upon myself. I'm gonna go to the best of the best of the best, so I can learn to be the best and train with the best. That's different. Mm-hmm. But that's only one discipline. He did that with Muay Thai. Phil Nurse was his coach. He went and found
a different Muay Thai coach, and so he took gymnastics.
I was just gonna say that, yeah.
Because he explained something like it's okay if you can squat 500 pounds, that's fine, but how strong does a guy actually have to be? At some point, it becomes a detriment to you.
Yeah.
And he said that what's more important is that I can move my body in an absolutely uncomfortable position, like maybe on your side with someone leaning on you, punching you in your face, where you have to maybe use your shoulder and a hip to get out of a hold. That's different than just being strong.
Well, one thing on the gymnastics I remember reading from that book is one of the, you can correct me if I'm wrong because it's been a while, but I think one of the reasons that he said he took gymnastics was to be able to orient himself when he's upside down.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And so in the ring, like when you're in the ring, if you've ever watched a fight, you see you're getting tossed around, you're flipping, you're changing directions, your head is all over the place, right?
Yeah.
And I remember him saying, I think the example he gave was he was in the ring and somebody flipped him, and in the moment that he got flipped, he like blacked out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was like, that's all it takes, and you're done. You're submitted.
Now
they
where
got
you are.
you.
This is your
You
life,
don't know where you are.
Yeah.
Right? So he's like, I can't afford to have that moment of blackout.
Yeah.
So he went and took gymnastics for that. So that he could be used to being upside down and in weird positions with his body, and his head is still on straight. He knows where he is.
Yeah.
Right? It's amazing. Like the thing that he did is he went and he was seeking his weaknesses.
Yes.
And that is the biggest thing. I mean, this whole book, it just keeps showing up, but he went looking for it. He went and confronted all the things he wasn't good at. He didn't spend any more time than necessary being the best wherever he was. He moved and went to somewhere that he wasn't the best so that he could learn, you know?
Well, we talk about skill buckets, right? So you look in hockey, it's the same thing. So a couple points. I'm gonna go. If I get lost, go back to skill buckets for me.
Yep.
What I love about this is that he sought out what he was weak at and he made himself better, because you're only gonna be as good as your weakest link. And especially hockey, pro sports, whatever. There's video, so people can. When you go and play another team, coaches do their research. They do the video. They find out the weak links and how to attack those weak links. So if I'm playing against defense, I see weak links on him. If it's a pair, I might want to put in that guy's corner because we've got a better chance. That's how you win. But like the mindset to say, I'm really good, but I'm weak here, and I'm going to go hone in on that. So how do we do that in hockey? You have to find those things and have the mindset to want to go through the torture of getting better. And this is where we talked about it before, about being obsessive. Because you're not going to make it by not being obsessed with this. My wife and I talked about this the other day. I said, you literally have to be selfish. Selfish to the point where you're a good person and all that stuff, but you have to, like, to do something this unreal, you have to be like obsessed with what you're doing.
I think sorry to cut you off, but I think a better word for it than being, although there is an element of selfish, I think it's more like uncompromising.
That's a great term.
I think that's more
good looks.
I think that's more applicable to what we're talking about, right? It's not necessarily that you're selfish, because selfish kind of implies you're doing it to the detriment of other people, kind of thing, for your own best interest and whatever.
That's a good one.
Which it is that, but you're not willing to compromise the things you need to do to get where you want to go, right?
Yes.
And so I think that's a better way of putting it.
Great word.
Yeah.
So going back to the skill buckets, we're talking hockey here. So what is it, kids, players, parents, if you can help your kids out, what are those skill buckets, right? So we know that we have to be able to skate. We have to be able to shoot. We have to be able to pass. We have to have soft skills of taking passes. If you're not getting passes on your stick or they're bouncing off, fix that. Your shot, your defensive zone, whatever it is, your strength, your speed, whatever. You have to find those weaknesses and hone in on it, because having a really good shot and working on your shot while your skating is deficient is not good. So what you want to do is, you never want to stop building a skill, because doing the stuff that comes naturally that you're good at, it's rewarding too. But working on, so how I would put it is that you have all these different buckets, and what you have to do is fill them. That's all. So yes, you can still, if you've got the best shot in the league, you can still shoot pucks, which is important, but you have to take that bucket over here of, maybe it's stick handling, or maybe it's I don't know, your D zone, whatever it is, and start filling that bucket, put more time in there, because that's what's going to give you the reward.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Oh yeah. Well, this just happened a couple of weeks ago, actually. Charlie was in shooting pucks. Yeah. And I jumped in rapid shot with him to go him. We did a best of 5 little series, whatever. And side note, can he shoot the puck? Yeah. So we did our little competition, and I haven't shot a seriously shot pucks
Yeah.
since I was probably 23, right? I'm 26 now. So it's been probably 3 years since I've legitimately shot pucks. And this is going to your point about the skill buckets. I had a good shot. I didn't have the most amazing shot, but I had a pretty good shot.
Yeah, you had a good shot.
And I went in there after like 3 years, almost cold turkey, no shooting. And within 2 rounds,
Yeah, you got it back.
I'm zipping pucks again,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And what the point of me bringing that up is your strengths are to a certain extent always going to be your strength, right? And if you can keep working the strength as much as you want, but you already have it.
Yeah.
You got that part down,
Yeah.
right? If you have the best shot or one of the top shots, you don't need to spend most of your time working on your shot.
Those circuits are already myelinated.
Oh yeah, good word.
Yeah.
And that's exactly right. So and that's a great example for me. 3 years, and then I just come back and boom, those circuits are still there, man. Still zipping, hitting the blue corners.
Yeah.
With every other shot, whatever,
Yeah.
right? So if you know, and this is the other thing is it takes a certain level of honesty with yourself, right?
Yeah.
We talk a bit about humility, but the other piece of it is honesty. Like, what are you actually not good at?
Yeah.
Right. And being able to look at, like, so if you're slow, right? Like, let's say you're a kid that you got a good shot, you're a decent player, can control the puck, and you're a little bit bigger. You're a bigger player, right? What do you need to work on?
Yeah.
You should be able to know.
Yeah.
Right? You should be able to figure that one out.
Yeah.
Right? Or if you're a kid that you're great open ice and you're great at skating in a straight line, but as soon as you have 2 hands on the stick, you can't do anything.
Yeah.
Well, you should know that.
Yeah.
Right? You should be able to assess yourself and know that so that you can fill those other things where you're missing. You know, you got to be able to fill in the gaps, because as you get to the higher levels.
The lights just kind of went off.
Huh.
Oh, they're back on. We're good. That was interesting.
Was it because we didn't move?
I don't know.
Weird.
It was weird. As you get to the higher levels.
Yeah, as you get to the higher levels, everyone's got a full bucket in every aspect, right? And if you're not close to full in all the buckets, then you're behind for sure.
Yeah, and the thing is that if you don't humble yourself, you will be humbled by somebody else.
Well, it's like,
and that's like either going to be through a coach, another player who takes your spot, or another player that knocks you on your ass. And it's like, if you don't want to take the time to humble yourself to control your life, someone else will do it.
Well, it's like I said at the start, if you don't go looking for it, it's going to come find you.
Yep.
You can get by for so long, right?
Yep.
But it's going to come knocking on your door. And it happened to me. I know it happened to you.
Yeah.
And as a guy that didn't make it and wanted to, it came knocking on the door for me, right?
For sure.
And it's a wake-up call, man. So like, go find it before it finds you, you know, and take it out.
And the other thing on this is that there is not one thing, if you're truly, if your true desire or dream or goal, mission, purpose is to make it as far as you can, whatever that is for you, if it's the NHL, if it's being the NHL MVP, whatever that is, if that's truly your thing, there's not one skill bucket that you should overlook. There's not one detail that that you can say, it's good enough. Like, and I'm not talking about the mental game. I'm talking about your eating. I'm talking about your preparation.
Especially in today's game?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
No chance. You got no chance.
There's a lot of people that want that job. So that was the George side of this, the Georges St-Pierre, his desire. Like, I'm just amazed, and I'm not, but I'm amazed at the fact that this guy drove on. So the deeper story of this, he drove on weekends after he was a garbage man at the time, fighting on the side, trying to scratch his way to the top. On weekends, he would take that, I think it was an 10-hour drive to Montreal. He used to get rides, whatever, and you do that every weekend, stay in these rat-infested hotels with the druggies and stuff to go to this gym that no one knew him, that he was below average at. And he would go there with a handful of money that he saved up and give it to the coach, John Danaher, and he'd say, can I stay for the day? And he'd stay all day, all weekend. He'd give him a handful of money, and the guy just said, yeah, of course, yeah, stay. You pain in the ass.
Yeah, Jesus
You're
Christ.
No good.
Jesus
You're no
Christ,
good. But yeah, stay and be a pain. But he grew, right?
Yeah.
So then here's the interesting story. Now we get the perspective of the coach.
Love this, man. This is so good.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. So I'm just, again, I'm going to read a couple excerpts here. So this is Coach in New York, first time he met him. He goes, a good way to understand my first meeting with Georges St-Pierre is to understand its mundane nature. I was teaching a beginner's class at Gracie's gym in New York City. George came in and he was immediately conspicuous by his lack of English. He was only a blue belt in those days, relatively inexperienced. He joined in clumsily, but with enthusiasm. He had what I would describe as an above-average athletic potential, but by no means was he spectacular. I've had numerous athletes with far greater ability than him. So he walks into this
love
gym.
that.
Yeah, it's so good. So he walks in. So like you as a hockey player, like what age are you? It doesn't matter, but you look at your age, and the point that I get out of that is you don't have to be the best player on the ice. The one thing I liked about that is that his enthusiasm to come in here and work, and I think that's a big thing. Like I told Charlie today, it's that passion that you have, that big smile. Never lose that, and again, it's easy to do things when you're the best, when you're the king of the gym, as George said. But when you're not the king of the gym, how do you react? That's where it's tough.
Well, and the important point, or the important thing that I want to point out about that is, like you were saying a little bit earlier, everyone says, I want to play in the NHL. Yep. That's what everyone says. So when you walk into the gym for the first time, or you walk on the field, or you walk into on the rink or whatever, and the coach is there, the trainer's there, and you say that to them, they're going to be like, okay, kid, which they should, because everyone says that, right? But the thing that was different about what George did and what anyone who's serious will end up doing is they'll keep showing up.
Yeah.
They'll keep being there. They'll keep asking questions. They'll keep the enthusiasm up. They'll do the right things, and you'll be able to tell as the coach that that's what they're doing. And then it goes to what I was saying, I think in a different episode that we did, you're going to care as much as the kid cares, right? So I don't know exactly where the story ends up going that you're going to read, obviously, but what'll end up happening is over time, it's like, man, this kid won't go away. Oh, this kid's actually starting to get better. Oh, this kid's actually won a couple fights now.
Yep.
And then now it becomes real for the people around you. And similar to how you were talking about Dalton shooting pucks at the start, right? Yeah. It's like, at the start, it's like, man, this pain in the ass kid is just making noise all day. To, hey, where did that kid go? Oh, he moved away. He made junior in whatever city.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Comes back. Hey, I haven't seen that kid in like 5. Oh, yeah, he's in the NHL now. He plays in San Jose. Yeah. Or whatever, right? And and now it's serious. Now people take you serious, right? But there's that period at the beginning where you have to be, it's that humility again, right? You got to be able to let the coach think that about you, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So the next part from the coach again. At the end of the drilling session, first day again, we commenced live training. I think that's how that sentence goes. Students, we commenced live training. So now students would face off against each other. At that point in his career, George applied himself well against the beginners. But his overall skill was unexceptional. When he rolled with the more advanced athlete, he was overwhelmed. But he wasn't intimidated. Rather, he seemed delighted by it. Most people, this is a professional coach speaking, most people, when they encounter defeat, experience a diminishing in their enthusiasm, obviously. Yet, as George encountered defeat, his enthusiasm only grew because he was just learning. Another thing that George said, and we talk about this a lot, said that he found that when he learns something, he realizes that he knows less than he knew previously. So the example in this book that he uses is, it's so good. He paints a nice picture. He was talking about he has to eat very, very healthy, obviously, to maintain the body and nutrition. He goes, so I can spend time learning about nutrition, but I don't have the time to actually learn that much, so I hire someone to do it. He goes, now I can learn it. He goes, but this is the problem. He goes, if I learn something, then we were talking about our nutrition, which just it's mind-boggling sometimes. He said, like, for example, if I want to learn how to make chili, yes, I can learn how to make chili. I can take the hamburger, learn how to brown it, put some onions in, put whatever other ingredients you want in there, and at the end of the thing, you have a pot of chili, and you taste it, and you go, that's pretty good. I learned chili. Then you realize that now that I learned how to make chili, I know less than I did before, because now learning how to make chili opens up a world of cooking. And cooking has its whole different entirety that you can start learning. And you go down the rabbit hole of different types of chili, how to make it taste, different ingredients. So that's one type of chili. So in essence, you learn one thing, which makes you dumber.
Yeah. Well,
because you actually know less.
I love, man, I love this one. But there's actually they've done studies on this where I don't remember exactly how it goes, but the gist of it is the less people know about certain topics, the more they think they know about certain topics. And people who know more are not as confident in what they know, which is so fascinating. So it's like every time you learn something new, your absolute knowledge does increase. Absolute meaning the totality of what you know overall. Yeah. That will increase. But your relative knowledge, which is what you know relative to what you could know, actually goes down, right? Yeah. Because now you've just learned one new thing, but there's 100 or 1,000,000 or a billion new things that you could learn now from the new thing you just learned, right? And I love that.
But you know, saying this, it's like so true. Like as a coach, like as a teacher, as a player, it was the same thing. Like I started delving in the field of really shooting, let's say shooting. And as we start going through the mechanics of that, you start just getting a deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper understanding. So when someone says, how do I get a better shot? It's like, to me, that question is like, okay, I got to back that up about 20 years. Yeah. Because what do you mean by a better shot? Do you mean when your feet moving? Do you mean by hiding the puck? Do you want it just harder? You want it more accurate? Do you want it a snapshot, wrist shot? Like, do you want there's a million ways to do it. Yes. Do you want, are you bending your stick? Like there's a million things you go through and then people look at you and go, what do you, I just want to shoot harder. Yeah, I know. Yeah. But it's a lot more complicated than just let's shoot harder. Yeah. Right.
So going back to what GSP was saying there, like about the nutrition thing. Yeah. There's so much to know, and he wants to master this domain. Yes. That he doesn't have enough time.
Right. So he lets his people team, the team. Right. And having your team, which we're going to go into after, is important. So next thing from Coach, this is awesome. God, this is awesome. Because I just want everyone just to picture you as a kid or you as that player where the coach, when you're building your dream and you're saying, I'm going to do this, I want to do this. There's going to be a whole bunch of negatives and there's going to be people tell you you're not good enough. You just don't have it, son, or whatever. So this is a master coach. He goes, many of us, when we picture the meeting, the meeting of a great can I start over? Yeah. Many of us, when we picture the meeting of great people at some pivotal point in their lives, we picture great events taking place. But this was noteworthy only in that it wasn't noteworthy at all. A random beginner's class on a random day during an unexceptional month. If anyone had walked into that class and seen the people rolling there was not even a single thing that suggested that they were witnessing the early career of one of the greatest martial artists of all time. Nothing he did that first day was memorable. And he ends that with nothing. Yeah. So that would be like Joe Schmuck coming on the ice with me and to be the next Sidney Crosby. You don't know when you were... Yeah, you go. Well, I could get on a tangent here.
It kind of reinforces what he was just saying is that, there's not a single path that you can go on to get where you want to go, right? Yeah. So you hear the Sidney Crosby story where, he was the best always 9, 15, 20, 25, 30, always the best every day, no matter where he went, whatever rink he was in. But then you hear the story about this guy who's also the best in the world in his field, if you want to call Crosby the best in the world. You can talk about it. I will.
I'll say he was and could be still.
Yeah, that's what I think too. But so for GSP, he's the best in the world. Completely different path though, right? Completely different. He went in, there was nothing substantial about him at all that was noticeable, nothing memorable, not his stance, not his mobility, not his strength, not his work ethic, nothing. Zero. That's his coach saying that. There's nothing about him, nothing. And that's amazing. That's an amazing thing. So I just wanted to point out how that reinforces it. But everyone thinks, oh, I got to be here. I got to do this thing. I got to do that thing. I have to make sure I'm with these people. I'm with those people. It's like, no, because you don't know what the path is for you. Yeah. You don't know what it is. Yeah. So you just have to go through it. And that's it. You could take this path where you were the worst and then ended up being really great, or you could be the best all the time, or anywhere in between. There's not one way to get where you want to go.
Funny too, like just change hats here for a second. Mom and dad listening to this, your son is totally immersed and tells you that he's going to be the next Sidney Crosby or Connor McDavid, or he's going to be playing in the All-Star game in the NHL, and he literally gives up his life and just starts going for it. So if you take these decisions and see how Like, think what his parents were thinking.
I was just about
He's
to say.
going to Montreal on weekends, and he's got $40, $20, $25, and he's got hitching a ride. Like, my son's crazy. How do I break it to him that he's nuts? That he should be going to school? That he should be doing a trade? Like, come on, man. Like, this is you're not going to be the champion of the world. Come on, you're not even good.
Yeah.
Right? No, but like, think of that parent.
You're not even good.
You're not even
Your
good.
coach
but
said you're not good.
This is what I always say about people is like, what is it inside you? Because there's when I was building my business through tough times, and when I've done things in my life that no one believed, nobody, no one believed that was going to happen. I said, no, but I see what I see, and I know what I want, and I know doing that is going to not make me happy, but is what I want out of life, opposed to everything else. So your decision, like mom and dad can make all the decisions of the world, but that's not the way it works. It's you have to be intrinsically motivated and literally do what it takes to get there. So anyways, I've got 2 more little things here.
Yeah, fire
away.
away.
We'll go off on a different tangent. I got so many different things, but I just highlighted these 2. So coach again. Everyone begins at the bottom, even someone as talented as George. No one who witnessed that meeting would have guessed that we were looking at a future superstar. Our initial meeting shows just how far a human being can progress through the combination of will and time. Time is a big thing. People want things like that, right? Georges St-Pierre is possessed of a tremendously strong will. Next piece, and I'll be done with this part, I think. He was coming by bus 9-10 hours from Montreal to study Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He was staying in dilapidated and physically uncomfortable living conditions in flop houses across various New York ghettos. He shared rooms with people who smoked drugs. He was coming to a country where he spoke almost nothing of the language, on a garbage man's salary and at a considerable personal expense. He was seeking to better himself. That points immediately to the strength of his will and the strength of his vision. I didn't learn that on the first day, but I learned it soon enough in the coming weeks and months. Wow.
Yeah. Unbelievable, man.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
So that's just the pieces I wanted to. I could go on and on about this book. So number 1, I might read something else after. This is the book, Georges St-Pierre. You can apply it to hockey, you can apply it to your business, you can apply it to anything. And we're gonna go on. We're gonna go on from here, though. Yeah,
I wanted to maybe stretch into talking about a little bit about his team.
Yeah.
And I know you want to talk about that a little bit.
Did.
You pointed out before, like with the nutrition piece, he hired someone to take care of that, and he talking a little bit about being uncompromising, a little bit selfish or whatever to get where you want to go, because that's what you have to do. And he had basically like a mentor in each of these different areas. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you wanted to take it from there.
Yeah. No, this is really important because he still has keeps the circle small, because he says, like, before fights, fighters, a lot of them talk about this, but he says before fights, he goes, you can't even imagine what goes through your head weeks. First of all, he doesn't like fighting. He likes the training. He hates the fighting. It's just, he goes, it's anxiety. So he goes, the only people that can understand him is not his family. There's no one that understands him except for his team. And what they let him do is they just let him be quiet. They joke around a little bit, but they just let him be quiet. But he's just happy that his team is with him, because they're the only ones that understands. He goes, no one understands. And it's like a hockey player. When you what was it the other day? I think it was my wife. She wasn't, something happened, like she said something about one of the players, whatever, NHL and all this stuff, and she goes, I don't feel bad for them. I said, oh, I do, because right now they're playing for 20% of their income. So I explained to her, I said, hon, do you remember these guys put everything on the line to be NHL hockey players? This is what they chose to do. They got X amount of time to do it, and they deserve every dollar they get because they're the best in the world. And they're going out there playing for 20. I think this is what the context of the conversation was. And she goes, oh, yeah, I forgot. I said, because if you look at Charlie, the stuff that he does and what he's going through, the dedication that Dalton had to put in, and Zach, all these people, like the everydayness of this thing, they deserve every penny they get. So, yeah, you have to be like a little bit uncompromising in what you do.
Oh, yeah. I had this conversation with my girlfriend and her family the other day we were having dinner, and we were I forget what started the conversation, but this exact same thing came up. They were like, "Oh man, like I can't believe that these." I think the football game was on or something. It's playoffs right now, and the comments. One of them made a comment about like, "Oh, I can't believe like that they make that much money. Like they're making more money than doctors. They're making more money than these people that are really like saving the world and doing all the right things and all this." And I said the same thing that you just said. Like, I think they deserve every penny because you're paying to watch them. You're paying to watch them. And how many doctors are there? I'll use engineering because I know about that.
Yeah.
I think in Ontario, there's like somewhere in the hundreds of thousands of engineers in Ontario. Maybe 300,000. That's a random number I'll throw out there. Sure. I haven't looked at it in a while. But 300,000 in Ontario.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, even if that's Canada, right? Even if I'm wrong and that's across Canada, there's 300,000 engineers
or US.
just in Canada, right?
Yeah.
Okay. There's 750 NHL players in the world.
Yes.
In the entire world.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So the scale of that can't be understated. But again, this is coming from people that they don't know anything about what it's almost like, well, they were born and they were really good at hockey and then they got to play in the NHL and now they make all this money. It's like, well, that's a bit of a simplification. Yeah. Right? And they have no clue about, like you just said, like what is going into it, like what it actually takes. Yeah. And that's why the importance of getting there, like trying to structure your life so you have a team of people around you, mentors around you that you can lean on and learn from to try to get one of those 750 spots and try to earn that income. Because it's not like for GSP in that book, like he says it a bunch of times, like you don't have enough time to figure it all out on your own. Yeah. You know? Yeah.
Yeah. So the 5 parts is, the first one was his mother. That's basically the roots. So he just talks about like where he came from, the upbringing and how his parents supported him and they still support him to this day. And that's like, everybody's got that. And how some, like I said the other day, we were doing a podcast about Chris Stewart and Wayne Simmons, how their family dynamics was a lot different, right? They came from poverty and their path to make the NHL was like not the way it's supposed to be, but they had that desire to make it, right? So your upbringing is one thing. But so anyways, St-Pierre found a mentor. His name was Christophe Midou. He was a mixed martial artist, I think on, what is the name of, it was near an Indian reserve in Montreal area. So he was a big fighter and he was tough as heck. So Georges St-Pierre was looking for him and he saw him on the streets of Montreal one day and he drove and almost ran the guy over and said, hey. And he introduced himself to this guy. And the guy's looking at him like, what's up, dude? Like, yeah. I'm going to snap you in half. He's a big guy too. Yeah. He goes, no, I watch you fight and I want to learn from you. And the guy's like, okay, whatever. But he did. He took him in and they became really good friends. And there's obviously an age difference, but not that much, but like, let's say 5-10 years. Mm-hmm. And this guy would show him how to fight, and he put him in situations as a mentor, and he showed him how to do MMA, and then taught him a little bit of. It's like having your first, maybe I don't want to say a skills coach, but your first one in hockey that actually believes in you, spends time, shows you the basics of it. I mean, the guy was a professional, but showed him that like he wasn't a coach though, but he showed him how to fight, who to fight, where to fight, and directed him in certain positions. So that was the first guy, still with him today. And they're tight. But they used to go around because the guy was a pro fighter at that time. They weren't making a lot of money. So they would hang out together, train in George's dad's basement. And they'd, whatever money they'd have, they'd go down and try to eat the best they could. He said they remember buying jugs of milk and like really cheap chicken at the 7-Eleven or whatever. And they'd eat that and they thought they were on top of the world. Yeah. But I understand that because it's like the Rocky movie, right? Like, we're going to do this, man. We're building our dream and you're going to help me and I'm going to help you. And it's like they're all in it together. Yeah. And they started winning fights, which was great. So he had a mentor, and for me, that's one thing that I wish, a lot of kids use me a lot, and I have people for Charlie, and of course he uses me, but I think that's undervalued. Like, people really don't understand. Like, if you're actually very serious about this, you really should find someone that has been somewhat there that can guide you. Yeah. And you got to, you don't just say, hey, can you be my mentor? But you're going to be like my son Charlie with you. You're a mentor to him because you walk the walk. He watches you every day. You work out. You played hockey. You do things. You're in good shape. And all those qualities, when you say something that has some substance to them, and you have the ability to, when he says something that maybe you have the ability to do something that I can't do with him, and that's give him a different perspective in a stern way.
Yeah.
You say, Charlie, that's stupid.
Yeah.
And then he'll look at you and go, okay, I don't want to disappoint you, which is important.
Yeah.
That you have people in your corner that are cheering for you, that are honest with you, and that want the best for you.
Yeah, and the one thing I want to point out about the mentorship thing is, sometimes you may not have anyone in your environment that can play that role for you, right? You might not have someone that's accessible in the same way that, Charlie has this place here, and that's a huge benefit to him because he's got you as a dad, first of all, but then all the people that come through PowerTech that the other kids don't have access to, that maybe they don't have the same opportunity, or their parents, they work their 9 to 5s. They're not super ambitious or whatever in providing those types of resources. But the difference now is, I don't know, when was GSP, would that be in the 90s when he was training?
No,
coming up? Late 90s?
Yeah, let's say that. I actually probably 2000s, but let's say, 90s.
I would say like late 90s, early 2000s.
See my math?
Maybe?
Yeah, later, no, before that. But wait, it got to be way early, 90s, 2000.
Well, he had no choice but to go find these people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, no choice. Obviously, he had a choice. He could have not. But if he wanted to pursue what he was pursuing, he had no choice. Now, you have access to so much more information. You could have a mentor that they don't even know they're your mentor.
100%.
Right? You can watch their videos. You can listen to their podcasts. You can read their books. You can study their work. You can do all these things now because you have instant access to everything.
Yeah.
Right? And it might cost you $15 a month to subscribe to their whatever, if it's something that you really find is worth it.
Yeah.
But you're not stuck. If you're one of those kids that says, well, I don't have Dalton Prout that can be a mentor to me, or I don't have a really good skills coach, or I can't afford to pay a trainer. It's like, okay, it might be more difficult for you and less convenient, but that doesn't mean you're stuck. We talked about this today too, briefly. We were talking about you were talking about Charlie being able to skate on the ice, and your son has the huge piece of land and whatever, and we're like, man, how lucky is that he inherited that from his grandfather or whatever. And one of another book that I don't know if I'd recommend it to the kids necessarily right now, but it's a great book, is 0 to 1. Oh. I know you've read it. Great book. And the principle of that is, if you're at 0, if you have nothing to go off of, if you're starting with nothing, actually nothing, meaning you don't have resources, you don't have money, you don't have time, you don't have security, you don't have anything necessary to move forward in life, that's a tough spot to get out of. Going from 0 to...
It's harder.
Going from having nothing to having one thing is the hardest move you're going to make. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And all these kids that are... If you can hear this information, you're not at 0.
That's right.
Right? You're not at 0. You're already started. You already have something to go off of. Right? Yeah. And if you waste that, that's on you now. Yeah. So if you're going to sit and play pity party, like you don't have the resources, you don't have this, you don't have that. GSP was sleeping in a rat-infested drug house, taking a 10-hour bus ride from Montreal where he couldn't speak English. Yeah. Where are you at relative to that? Yeah. Right? Yeah. So when you're talking about having a mentor, go find one, even if it's not a real-life one. Yeah. Right? Find one in wherever you can find it, with whatever resources you have available to you.
Yeah. And yes, and you know what? Just to be careful here, you don't go up to someone and say, "Can you be my mentor?" Because that really that might even be weird, but not really, because you don't know if that is a mentor. Mentors are going to come up, so you the number one thing is be busy, be active. You be active, and so you'll get to someone's attention. But in the meantime, yes, pick up a book. Like, just pick up a book and read the freaking thing.
What's that saying? When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Yeah. I think that's the saying.
Yeah, people will pop in. No, seriously, people pop up. I remember when I was playing the year before I got drafted, there was a guy that used to watch me play hockey. I didn't know. So I was walking through the mall. I might have said this before. I was walking through the mall, and he said, "Andy, come here." He owned a jean shop, and I'm like, "Yeah." Didn't know him. He goes, "Where are you going to skate this summer? What hockey school are you going to?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't do hockey school." We didn't have money, and we didn't have ice in Sudbury, so didn't even know what he was talking about. He goes, "Oh no, you got to skate this year. You have to skate." And I said, well, I don't do it. And, he kind of read that I didn't have the money. So he goes, you need to cut your hair. Because I had longer hair, right?
Yeah.
Like back
The
in
feathered.
the 80s. Oh, yeah. I was sick.
I love that picture you got in the office. The feather hair. Love it.
So, but he said, you need to get a haircut. No, he didn't say the haircut the first day. But he said, yeah, I watch you a lot. You're a good hockey player. Blah, blah, blah. You need to skate. So I was going through the mall another time. And he had, Andy, come here. So I don't know this guy. He has 2 brochures. He goes, pick one. So I look and I go, oh, yeah. No, it's okay. One was Yvan Cournoyer from the Montreal Canadiens, his hockey school. Another one was in Toronto, Triple S hockey school. Jacques Martin was there. And then I got a scout that scouted me, gave me a pair of skates, actually, from Windsor Spitfires. They were there, a couple colleges, they ran it. But anyways, I looked, I said, no, I can't. He goes, no, you're picking one, or I'll pick it. I'm like, who are you?
Yeah.
I don't know who you are. Like, I don't get things. It's not my life. I don't get things from people, and you're giving me something, and I don't know how to take it. So he says, no, you're taking one. So I looked at the price. I took the less expensive one, which was in Toronto. So I go, okay, that's where you're going. So it was like in August, going to Toronto, but I don't know how to get there. So anyways, I arranged with a guy that I played a little baseball with. I took a bus down, and he had a big brother, like not a big brother, like family, big brother organization. This guy was a big brother to him. So he let me stay at his house, and he would drive me to the rink in Toronto. I didn't know this guy either. Yeah. So weird. So I got a guy that I didn't know, pay for a hockey school to stay with a guy that I didn't know to drive me a rink. And anyways, so Jacques Martin was there and a couple scouts, and it was a junior camp. So I was with the midgets, but they moved me to the OHL guys. So there was like Chris King, a few guys, Todd Ellick that played in the NHL, and they moved me up and they said, hey, would you like, then I got scouted and I kind of got scouted there. The coaches and the GMs were talking to me and like, wow, we really like you because I did well. And it was like, okay. And I came back, but that was a mentor that popped out of nowhere. So as he got to know me, he said, like, I got back and I said, Rob Francisini is his name. I don't know where this guy came from. And I ended up working with him after a little bit because I felt I owed him something. Yeah. But I was like so appreciative because we just didn't have those things. And this guy spent like $1,000 on me. I'm like, wow. So anyways, I come back and he goes, okay, now you got to get a haircut. I'm like, wow, why? So I got because I had to make him happy now. Figured he was. Yeah, you owed him. So I got a kind of a haircut and he goes, that's not. And then, but he explained to me, he goes, you have to get a haircut because here's why. You're a good hockey player. You're a really good hockey player. But when I see your hair, I think you're a druggie. Oh, I don't do drugs. I wouldn't do drugs. He goes, no, but you look like it. And he just taught me a couple things. Yeah. That was mentorship. I'm eternally grateful for this guy. Yeah. And like he didn't have to do that. He could have kept his money for himself. Maybe was it something in it for him? I don't know. But that was something that held me accountable. I remember I went to the bar, a couple of guys my first year junior, they brought me to the bar, right? So, but I didn't have ID and stuff. I had to sneak in. So once I got to the bar, he saw me there. He goes, what are you doing here? I'm like, now I'm disappointing this guy. I felt like, okay, this guy, I can't make him. Yeah. Like he invested in me. Yeah. And so he by default became one. And then as you get older and you just take advantage of people that are willing to help you, some people just have your your best intentions at heart. Yeah. And then sometimes people just like to blow smoke up your ass. Yeah. But you have to figure that out as you go. But that's just the growth process.
Yeah, well, I think when you're talking about people kind of popping into your life and whatever, and that's the nice thing is that especially with these kids, like they have resources, they have teammates, they have coaches, they have different parents around, they have trainers. They have access to these things. Like I said, there's none of these kids that none of them are really at zero that I have come across, at least that we work with here, right? And some kids are, obviously, but not most of the kids that are going to be listening to this. Yeah. And one of the things that happens when you have those types of people around, like you said, you snuck into the bar and the guy was there. And that is something that he is in your environment now. And that's a check on you, right? And that's the nice thing is the more of these people, like, GSP talking about having a team and he's surrounded by people that have his best interest in mind. Yeah. And it's hard to find. It's not like it's an easy thing either, right? But you can find it.
But when you find these people. Here's the thing, right? I mean, in our business, people come and talk to me all the time and they're really starting to come to you a lot. And I love that because it's different perspectives and there's strength in numbers as well. We're on the same page, right? But we know, and I mean, this might sound like a sales pitch, but it's not. Hopefully that comes through in the way we speak and in the quality of our work that we do. Like, I care about the kids.
Yeah.
I care that they do.
Oh yeah, I do too, for sure, man.
Care.
Yep.
So when, someone comes in, we've had someone come in and say, I'm just trying to lose some weight, man. Like, it's hard. So I sat down, and you sat down with that same fella, and we talked to him. Like, this is what but now you got to take the advice and you have to do it. But we care and we want to do it. And those people are invaluable.
Yeah.
And it's rewarding as a mentor. And I don't like to say that, but by default, that's what I am several times. Hundreds of times.
Yep.
I was a mentor to you when you were a kid.
Still are, man.
To Dalton and to Zach and all these guys. But it's a big responsibility. But like, you just want to see people do well. So there are people that actually are like us that want people to do well. And if I don't know something, I'm going to pass it along to someone. I'm going to say, I don't know, but here's what I think, and I'm going to pass you to Dalton or whatever, and they're going to give you some good advice. But it's just, if you don't have a physical person, yes, get the book, get a podcast, listen to stuff, and then do the thing. Do the thing. That's the number thing. Try something that makes sense.
Yeah. And
it's always going to be, it's hard work, guys. Always.
Yeah. And one of the things, like, just maybe starting to get to wrap up, the important thing, we've said this a million times, but it's just that you need to shape your environment to be what you need it to be to get where you want to go. Right. Yeah. And again, I think I've recommended this before, but for guys that, everyone's got the social media feeds now, right? You got Instagram, you got TikTok, you got whatever else you guys are using. And there's really good resources on those.
Yep.
So you can make even your virtual environment conducive to what your goals are.
For
right?
Sure.
Only like, get rid of the crap. Like, stop following all the bullshit entertainment nonsense that gets you sucked in for 2 hours, and just follow people that are motivational, or are good with nutrition, or good with training, or follow the hockey highlights. Follow only things that shape your environment to be what you need it to be, right? Yeah. Whether that's mentors, whether that's your social media, whether that's what you have around your house. Like, these are the things that you have control over, right? And that you can do to help yourself get forward. And whether you're the kid that's really good off the stop, or you're like GSP where you're not good and there's nothing about you that's noticeable. Like, these are all things that everyone can equally do to help themselves, right? Yeah. So. Yeah.
And speaking of that, with our Whoop app.
Oh yeah.
We have a couple of the players that have joined.
Yeah, it's starting to catch.
But I'm not saying it for the fitness aspect. What I'm saying is it is another form of mentorship.
Yeah.
We have a group of hockey players that have got on our PowerTech Whoop app, and so now they can see. And I told the one boy that we were talking to the other day, we said, you know what, now and my son just got one. So now everything that you do or don't do, we see. You understand that, right? So if you say that I worked out today, and we can actually see if you did or didn't, but it's not to be an ass. It's like, you told us what you want and we were going to help you get it.
Oh yeah.
So we'll get in your grill. Yeah, if you haven't worked out today, if you said I forgot my battery didn't charge for a couple of days. Oh, I don't think that's what it was, son.
Well, this goes back to what GSP was saying in the book too, is that humility, like seeking out, being honest, and wanting to know, right? Yeah. So like, you can't pretend, man. Like, this is the thing. You're gonna be found out at some point. You can get by for a little bit, but over time, and now with the Whoop thing again, I can see how you slept last night.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you're going to come in and say, oh yeah, like, went to bed early and I don't know, I'm just not feeling well today.
Yeah.
It's like, no, actually, I can see what time you went to bed and how long you slept, and like, you
kid, you're dumb.
Yeah.
You gave us access to all your information. Yeah. Now you can't lie.
Right? And that's
it's awesome.
But that is a good thing, right? And but it's only a good thing if you actually listen to it.
It's about surrounding yourself with the right people.
Yep.
And that's what it is. You create groups of people that are, like, that's what we love about PowerTech, right? We come in, it's nothing but a ball of energy.
Yep.
We created that. It's a ball of energy, and if you come in with negativity, if you come in with lethargic and down and stuff, it doesn't really fit. So when people come in there, they leave and it's like, this place is awesome. It's awesome, all right, and it's going to stay that way because we have good people, and people are what make it. So so surround yourself. That's the point of having that the maven, the master, and the mentor in that piece I was saying is just he surrounded himself with good people that care, that are on the same page, that understand you, And the more you do that, just it becomes easier because you have there's strength in numbers. You know what I mean?
Compound interest, man. There it is.
Compound interest. That's another word.
Yeah. All right. Well, anything you want to leave off with before we go? We've been going for a while.
Yeah. You know what? It's as I thought about this, it's like this is an amazing story of Georges St-Pierre, but that's one of many. And what I would say is go create your own story. Whether you come from a rich family that'll pay for everything, whether you have all the talent in the world or you don't, go write your own story. Write something that you believe in, and you know, deep down inside, you have to believe in it. You have to believe in this story, but you have to do the work. And there's going to be the good, the bad, the ugly. But what I want you to do is go start writing that story. And what does that mean? You know, paint that picture of where you want to be. Paint that picture and see it every day. And put the boots on the ground and go do it. That's it. Saturate your brain and your mind and your eat and your sleep with your dream and your goal. And that's what I have for you today.
Awesome, man. We'll leave it there till next time.
Beauty.
Sweet.